Title: The Tribal Feasts, Decentralized Worship Before the Temple. In the Torah, Israel is commanded to keep certain annual feast days, holy convocations to honor the Lord. These include the Feast of Trumpets, the Day of Atonement, and the 7-day Feast of Tabernacles. In Numbers chapter 29, we're given a detailed list of sacrifices for each of those days. But one thing is often misunderstood. These offerings were not only made in one central place like Jerusalem, not in the beginning. At the time of Moses and Joshua, the tabernacle was the center of worship, but it was mobile, and more importantly, the Levitical priesthood was spread throughout all Israel, not stationed in one city. In Numbers chapter 35, God commanded that the Levites be given 48 cities, spread across all tribal territories. This meant that each tribe had Levites living among them, assigned to teach the law and carry out priestly duties. That's how offerings like those in Numbers 29 could have been observed within each tribe. Locally, each tribe had its own priests and its own people, about 50,000 men 20 years and older, according to the census in Numbers chapters 1 and 26. These were the ones commanded to appear before the Lord at the appointed times. Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 16 makes this clear. 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Lord thy God, in the place which he shall choose. Now some assume that this always meant Jerusalem, but that's not what the text says. Deuteronomy chapter 12 speaks of a future time when God would choose a place to put his name, but during the wilderness years and the early tribal period, that central place had not yet been established. So how did the people keep the feasts? They kept them where they were, with the Levites in their own cities. When we read about the sacrifices in Numbers 29, the 70 bulls, the rams, the lambs, the goats, it makes far more sense when we understand these were per tribe, not just national totals. If each tribe offered the full list over the course of the festival, then there was plenty of food. Each man would have nearly a full pound of meat across the feast days, not including the bread, wine, and oil, which were also part of the offerings. Now consider this. The Hebrew word, olah, often translated as burnt offering, literally means to ascend. It refers to cooking, smoking, letting the aroma rise. In Exodus chapter 29 and Leviticus 1, we see this repeatedly. Offerings were cooked, not just symbolically consumed by fire. They were prepared morning and evening, every day. And during the feasts. These were literal meals. Feasts in the biblical sense mean actual eating. Not simply watching a priest offer a lamb, but sitting, eating, drinking, and rejoicing. In Deuteronomy chapter 14, verses 23 to 26, the people are told to bring their tithes to the place where God places his name, but if it's too far, they could convert it to silver, travel. And then buy whatever their soul desires, oxen, sheep, wine, strong drink, and rejoice before the Lord. This is not just ritual, it's fellowship. We also have examples of this in practice. In 1 Samuel chapter 9, Saul is invited to a meal prepared by Samuel. There's no mention of a sacrificial killing happening at that moment. Saul sits, eats a reserved portion of meat, and participates in what is clearly a priestly meal. The language indicates that Saul and Samuel were engaging in a religious feast, but the killing had already been done. Saul wasn't the one making the offering, yet he was receiving the benefit of the priestly portion. This moment echoes the decentralized nature of worship in Israel's early history. Samuel, who acted as both prophet and priest, wasn't operating out of Jerusalem. The ark wasn't even in the tabernacle for part of his life. The system had not yet become centralized. And this decentralization is echoed in extra-biblical texts as well. In the Apocalypse of Abraham, Abraham offers sacrifices on the first day of the 7th month, which corresponds to the Feast of Trumpets. He lays out animals in a particular order: a dove, a pigeon, a calf, a goat. This mirrors the types listed in Numbers 29. And yet, there is no temple. No central altar. Just Abraham, obeying God, making offerings on a mountaintop. This supports the pattern. Offerings and feasts could be, and were, conducted outside of a central sanctuary, even by righteous men. Now, the post-exilage tradition, after the Babylonian captivity, did centralize everything. In that later era, with the temple rebuilt in Jerusalem, worship became focused there. Pilgrimage became required. Sacrifices were no longer offered in tribal territories. And much of modern interpretation comes from this temple-centered model. But that's not how it began. In the time of Moses, Joshua, Samuel, and even into David's early reign, worship was tribal, local, and rooted in the shared responsibilities of every clan. The Levites served among the people, the feasts were meals, the offerings were food, and the participation wasn't just watching, it was eating and rejoicing together. The people didn't bring their animals all the way to Jerusalem. They celebrated within their land, with the Levites God gave them, in the cities assigned for worship. In closing, the memorial of blowing of trumpets, called in Hebrew Yom Teruah, was never just about noise or ritual. It was a call to assemble, to remember, and to rejoice before the Lord with food, drink, and fellowship. From the Torah to the writings of the prophets, and even into the extra-biblical books like Jubilees and Enoch, we see the same pattern, a meal, a gathering, a sound, and a time of preparation for what is to come. Not every family could offer a full bull or lamb, and not every person had a household of 50. But the instruction was clear: if your house is too small, join with others. And if you have enough, invite those who don't. So today, in our scattered condition, as families, as singles, as small gatherings of believers, we still honor the command. We don't wait for a priest or a temple. We gather. We prepare a barbecue, with bread and wine, just as our fathers did. We blow the trumpet, we share a meal, and we remember the day that is set apart. We do this not out of obligation, but because we are part of the covenant, and because the King is coming.